All right. Hi, everyone. This is Adrienne from Fame Consulting. Happy to be here. It is February. Happy Black History Month. Happy we made it to the second month of the year. I'm not really sure how that happened because I'm still in 2023, but we're not even going to go there. So at this point, we completed the first month, and the first month's challenge was really using Wave Personal to track our personal spending and our personal finances. So I hope you were able to do that. I also hope that you were able to complete your January priority checklist. And please feel free to share some results, comment with, how did it work for you? Reach out to me. Let's engage and talk about how the challenge is going for you and just any feedback that you have. So this month, we're going to get into a brand new challenge. So everything is always going to stack and layer on the next thing. So now that we have our bookkeeping foundation, or we at least understand, what's going in, what's going out, we want to know our spending. So February is going to be the no spending challenge, not NO, but no, as in what do I know about my spending? So we're going to jump right into it. If you are a member, you should have access to the Coaching Corner course. Once you click on it, it'll allow you to go to continue and you can see the different modules. So for February, once we complete our live, which we're doing now, the recording will exist here and replace this image here for now, but all of the links that we need for today are here. So the first thing that I'm going to actually start with is the last thing on the end. This is the event link that will take you to the meeting. So next month, if you want to join in live, you can do so by using the event link. Second is the February checklist. So we're going to start there and just take a look at what are the things that we need to get done this month. So like always, the priority checklist starts off with your business, your monthly profit goal in dollars versus actual. And I'm so excited to announce the challenge for this month because it's actually going to be based on Profit First. If you haven't read that book, I've been raving about it. One of my good friends who actually is a photographer that did all my headshots, she is the one that recommended it to me, and I've been using it ever since. And a monthly mantra. So this month, make sure your affirmation or your monthly mantra is something that's really going to connect with what you want to achieve, who you want to be, how you need to show up, and repeat it to yourself whenever you feel like you're having an imposter syndrome moment or you feel frustrated. But just be intentional about that mantra and find something that's going to really pull you out of a space and get you realigned and connected to your goals. All right. So if you're new, just want to walk you through the template so you know what to expect. So here, excuse me, we have our goals and rewards. So I believe in if we're going to work really hard towards something, we should absolutely reward ourselves. And we want to, before we even start breaking down the goals, let's identify what that reward will be. Next will be tactics and techniques. So 3 action items that will help you move towards this goal, if not knock it out and achieve it. The due dates, and then also you must take a moment to reflect and refine. So review your progress and be really vulnerable and authentic around that. So if you set a goal, you had different action items listed, did you really commit to those action steps? Were you able to achieve them? Did you do all the things to set yourself up for success? So in that reflection piece, really take a moment to identify if it worked, great. Is there something you could do to refine it and make it even more powerful? Or if you didn't really hit the mark and you need to bring this back in for the next month, then what were the things that were working against you in this month that had you not achieved that action item or that goal or that step? So it's a moment of honesty, not for beat up. So don't let it bring you down, but really have it motivate you for, okay, this is what I can do, change and shift, because we are always in control. All right. So 2 goals for the month, tactics and techniques. And then we have our monthly challenge on the right, which I'll get into, and then business finance related tasks. So I'm going to really zoom in for this one. And I want us to kind of go over what do we really need to achieve in this month and what do we need to get done. So obviously we need to keep the lights on, need to keep running our businesses, but behind the scenes, what are some things that we need to make sure we're doing? So as always, by the 7th of the month, I say, get your bookkeeping completed to the best of your ability. If you're using myself as your bookkeeper, I would have sent you an ATC or Ask the Client list. And I'll just need you to provide updates or responses to the transactions I have questions on so that we can classify them for you. On the 10th of the month, by that date, you'll receive your P&L for January. So review it and then put money to the side. If you have a profit for that month, just think of it right now, put money to the side for your quarterly tax payments. Do it from now. It'll save you later. That way you don't spend that money and then have to look around and say, hey, where am I getting this money for this tax bill? Okay. By the 15th of the month, meet with your CPA to get ready to file your taxes. So right now, I know some people might still be getting some tax statements in. Some of them may be issued by around the 15th of the month. Like if it's an investment statement, collect all your documents. It's a great time, even today, just to get on your CPA's calendar so that you're already prepped for tax season. You already have your time slotted and you can just essentially hand everything over and get ready to witness the power of tax software, right? So be prepared and meet with your CPA early, especially if you have a 3/15 deadline. You want to get that knocked out. End of February is the goal, because once we get into March 1st and beyond, it starts to get a little dicey. So the sooner the better is what I will say. The next thing on our checklist for February is to learn about the beneficial owner reporting, FinCEN, and filing requirements. So what is beneficial owner reporting? Who is FinCEN? Why do I need to do it? And what actually happened? So January 1 of 2024, new reporting requirements came out by the federal government as part of the Corporate Transparency Act. Anyone that created an entity with the state, minus a few exceptions like nonprofits and other things. But generally, if you have an LLC, a partnership, or any other entity that you had to go to the state and register with them, get articles of incorporation, articles of organization, you now need to also register with FinCEN online and provide the owner's information. That's also going to include uploading picture ID, like your driver's license, your passport. So their government's getting really serious about understanding who's behind these entities, because technically you don't even have to give that information to the state when you initially create the entity. So the government said that's not going to work. So you have to submit that information to FinCEN. I do have a course that will be dropping this Thursday that will actually teach you and walk you through the steps of how to do the reporting yourself online. So stay tuned. That course will be dropping this Thursday. If you are someone who doesn't have time to watch a course and you need to just, hey, I need to get somebody to do this for me, take it off my hands. I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to be stressed. I also do provide those services as well. So connect with me if you need some support around this requirement. So things you'll need to do. So first thing is learn about what it is and figure out when your deadline is, because there are different deadlines depending on when your entity was created, what it is and how to get it done. Next is review the status with the state. So review your status with the state. So if your entity was filed with New York State, go on the New York State website, make sure your annual report is current, make sure that your entity is not delinquent in those filings or administratively dissolved. So if you go a couple years without filing your annual reports, and this applies to almost all 50 states, then the state can say you no longer exist and your name will become available. You don't want to be in that situation. So the first thing I say is go to your state, review the status. Once you review the status, make sure your registered agent that's on file with the state is up to date. If you use a registered agent service and you see it listed on the state website, but you know you haven't paid your registered agent fee in a while, check in around that too, because if you don't maintain your subscription, when they receive mail and different things on your behalf, they are not going to send it to you. They will lock it and you will not be able to get access to that information until you renew your membership or your subscription. So if you're currently listed as yourself and your address on the state website, you may want to reconsider having your personal information and home address on a public state website. So you may want to start inquiring or figuring out, how do I get a registered agent and how do I update that information with the state? So the last thing for this step is make updates. Now, why is that important? Because with FinCEN, every time you make a change to an address, you get a new ID number, you get a new picture on your ID, your entity's address changes, you actually need to go to FinCEN and you have 30 days to report that change to them. If not, you might be subject to penalties and fines and things like that. They have even said in certain cases, penalties might be $500 per day. So no one wants to deal with any penalties. Don't know how they plan to enforce this. I do not work for FinCEN. I'm just passing the message along. So what I suggest is make sure all your addresses, your registered agent subscriptions, your annual reports are up to date and you're in good standing with the state. Then go over to FinCEN and you'll see that the next step is complete beneficial owner reporting with FinCEN. So make sure all the information, addresses, everything is up to date. Then go to FinCEN and complete your filing with whichever addresses you're choosing to use on that filing. Now, the next step is going back to tax season, and it's make remaining retirement plan contributions before you file your tax returns. So even though it is February, we are past December 31, 2023. We're currently filing 2023 taxes. You can in some cases, you can contribute towards 2023. So even though it's 2024 and you're paying the money into your retirement plan, it will count as a 2023 contribution. That's only up until you file your return and any allowable extensions. So I'm just putting it on your radar that if you are still trying to find a way to do a little bit of tax planning around 2023, you may want to consider contributing to your retirement plan, or at least discussing if that would be beneficial to you with your CPA. Next is to review and update your W-4 with HR if you're employed by a third party, or if you are your own employer, update that information with your payroll provider. Why do I say that? Well, a lot of times people will get their tax return draft and they'll say, oh, I'm not getting the refund I expected, or I have a bill and I didn't expect that. And a lot of times that can be driven from your W-4 or the withholdings that are coming out of your paycheck. So it's always great to, at some point in the year, especially in the beginning half, just to update that information so that payroll system can be updated and your checks will reflect the new withholding amounts. All right. Next is to complete Profit First template for the month of February. And we're going to get into that challenge. That's why they're linked in green font. So we'll talk about that in a second, and then review budget for Q1 and make any adjustments as needed. So I know as part of the January challenge, we said, or the checklist, we said, make a budget for the entire year. Well, after we complete our February challenge and we know our spending and we are going to make some action items related to that spending, we may want to go back and adjust the budgets to reflect the new process that we're going to put in place. So it's fine if you already created a budget for the year. That's great. That's awesome. But I want us to be able to kind of tweak it and really get it set for Q1 of this year. That way, for the rest of the year, we can use a more realistic budget, and we'll look at the template and I'll talk through some things that I did as I was setting up my budget that helped me. So for the monthly challenge, it is the Know Your Spending and Put Profit First challenge. So the template that I have here for you to download, you can actually click this link and it will take you directly to the Google Sheet that you can download a copy of, and I'll show you how to do that. But essentially what we're doing here is using the Profit First framework. Now, it's not exactly to the T of the book. It's been mildly adjusted to make it simple for you to get started. If you read the book and you understand all the different percentages and things that they recommend, you can absolutely modify this template. You can use your own template. This is just a framework to get started with, but please make it your own. Before we get into the template, I'll just go through the steps that we'll walk through today, and then we'll take a look at the template together. So you're going to enter your TAPs from step 1. So when we open the template, the first tab is called step 1, and it'll have target allocation percentages listed based off of your revenue. So TAP stands for target allocation percentage, and that's coming directly out of Profit First. So I'm not making those amounts up. That's coming out of the recommendations from Profit First. Review your prior month's activity. So last month we set up our bookkeeping, we have Wave. We should be looking at, well, what did we actually spend? Did I even have a profit, or did I have a loss that month? So we're going to use last month and also prior months. So if you have the benefit of, hey, I have more than a year's worth of bookkeeping, you can look at month over month. So you can pull January 2023 versus January 2024 and look at those. You can also look at February 2024 to inform what 2023 to inform what you're going to set your budget for 2024. So you can look at January or February of 2023 and January of 2024 so that you can set your budget for February of 2024. I hope I didn't confuse you with all these 20s and 4s and dates and things. Okay. So once we enter our tabs, we review the prior months or year's activity, we create or update February budget. So we'll do that in the template. We look for ways to reduce spending or expenses. I personally like to go through this exercise. That's why I was mentioning going back to last year. What I did when I was updating my template is I actually looked at February 2023 to see what did I pay for in that month last year, especially when I'm moving to spaces where I'm doing annual subscriptions. So I was like, is there an annual subscription that's going to come due this month? My Zoom subscription is an annual subscription and it's due every February. So I knew that I needed to budget for that. That's always going to be a change from January to February. So it's not a monthly recurring expense, but it is something that's going to come up every year. So that's why I look at last February to see what I should expect for this February. Then I looked at January of 2024, last month. So I could say, all right, these are my monthly reoccurrings that I have going on. Do I want to maintain those? Do I want to end those? Do I want to switch to an annual plan? So those are the things that I'm thinking about when I get to this step of reviewing prior month's activity so I can try to make new choices for the months coming up. Next thing is to create or update your February budget. I said that. Look for ways to reduce expenses. That's what I was just speaking about. And then there's a bonus, set up the 5 Profit First accounts. So we're actually going to look at that first in the template. And then there's a bonus, read or listen to Profit First if you so choose. I personally have a copy of the book, but Spotify now has audiobooks and Profit First most certainly is available on Spotify. So if you have a subscription to Spotify, awesome, check that out. So first things first, let's go to the template. So as I mentioned before, you're able to download this. That's actually the first thing you want to do because you can't actually make any edits. This is a publicly available template, or I should say open to our community. So it's public in our community. But once you get this file, the only thing you can really do is download it. So I'm going to download it to Microsoft Excel. And then what you can do from there is actually upload the template right back into Google Drive. That way you have it available in Google Drive and can make all your changes there. I like that personally because Google Drive, I can always open it on my phone and look at it as opposed to saving it on my computer desktop. And then I always need to be on that machine to see it. So for me, I like to convert my Excel files to Google Sheets. That way I can always access them. So I'm not going to save it on my desktop, download, save. Great. All right. So let me get that open and then we'll look at this together. All right. So let's enable editing. Awesome. So like I said before, step one is identifying our target allocation percentages. So the thought process between profit first is just as the name suggests. Let's put profits first. As business owners, we often leave ourselves last to be paid. Especially when we're first getting started, our businesses are essentially eating all the money that we're making, and we think it's awesome because we're investing and that's what we're supposed to do, but we're not paying ourselves. We're trying to shift away from that space of making ourselves the martyr to making ourselves profitable and paying ourselves first as well. So the first thing you'll see here are these 5 different categories. These are actually the names of the bank accounts that he recommends you open. So real revenue, that's essentially one account where all the money that you make comes into this one account. So this is why the allocation is 100%. So 100% of whatever you're making should come into one business bank account. The next account you should create is profit. So based off of real revenue between 0 and 250,000, your profit allocation percentage should be 5%. So think of whenever you get paid, take 5% of whatever you get paid and put it in a separate account, and that's going to be you putting your profit to the side. The next thing is owner's pay. Now, we might really be at 0 here. So we might not be paying ourselves anything currently, but in this range, they say, you should aim to try and pay yourself 50% of what you're bringing in. So that might sound outrageous. It may not work right away, and that's okay. So on day one, where we're first implementing this template, it's important to look at last year. It's important to look at last month to see where you really are. And then every month we just try to build and do a little bit better and make different choices around our spending, our expenses, and maybe deferring certain things that we're paying for if possible. That way we can start to try and bring this number up from 0 if it's at 0 or whatever percentage it is currently at. The next thing, like I mentioned before, let's review last month's bookkeeping, pull the tax money to the side and put it in a separate account. So we should have revenue account, profit account, your owner's pay account, where you're putting the money you plan to pay yourself, taxes to the side in a separate account, and operating expenses, let that be in a separate account. I, funny enough, have been doing this for years and I didn't even realize it. So when I used to have a W-2, I asked them to split my paycheck between 2 accounts. One account was my bill account. So I knew I was never even going to put that debit card in my wallet because it was only meant to pay bills. The other account was my personal spending account. That's the debit card I put in my wallet that, hey, if it's in my account, I can spend it until it's gone. If I can't spend what's not there, right? So same principle or thought process with operating expenses. If you know that you have these bills that are going to be coming up, you need to put that money to the side and don't even touch it. So this is a way to kind of reprogram yourself so that just because you see it sitting there, you're not going to spend it. You have to create those boundaries around your money and your spending. And the best time to do it is before or right as soon as you're getting started with your business. If you're already established, that's okay. It's never too late to get started. So this was the bonus. You can open these 5 accounts, or you can figure out some type of method for you to track these 5 different activities. I don't necessarily recommend that. I would actually physically have 5 different bank accounts and make those transfers 1 to 2 times a month. That way you can essentially allocate everything where it needs to go. So pretty sure we're clear on that. Next up is the actual template itself. So I'm going to shrink these down. You see these little arrows and minus signs, these are called groups. So I like to group things so I can see what I want to see when I want to see it. So the first thing that's grouped is month 1, which is January. So we've already finished January. So this might just be you entering the information right into this template. So the first thing I'm going to do is just walk you through some basics before I put some numbers in. So profit is green. That's linked right here. Owner's pay is blue. That's linked right here at the bottom. Orange is right here. That's linked over here to taxes. And then operating expenses right here. So everything is linked in the software. Anything in black or colored boxes, you're not going to update. You're really just going to update these boxes that are in white. So let's put some fake numbers in. Let's say it was 20,000 for income that was my goal for January, but I really actually only made 15,000. So based on these numbers that I put in, you'll see that the numbers up here started to change. Based on $20,000 of income, you should have about $1,000 of profit. That's 5%. You'll see that I put the target allocation percentages from step 1 over here, right over here in the beginning. So I set those up in the beginning so that these can calculate based off of the information below. So now that I know what my profit goal is, this is what they're suggesting you should pay yourself as the owner, the taxes, and the operating expenses. I actually do like to see this operating expense number because it gives me a guide to know, hey, am I in a good range based off of this level of income? Again, it may not be perfectly accurate because your margins might be different. Your expenses for your business might be slightly different, but if you are ever wondering, it's just a baseline. It's not like a hard and fast science. So you might be over or below this number, but it's just something for me to kind of look at. So now what I'm going to do is really just go through here and update my actuals. Operating expenses, you can list as many expenses categories as you have. So what I try to do is make sure that my expense categories on my profit and loss statement actually line up here. So I will export my profit and loss statement to CSV, copy the categories, drop them here, and then copy the actual and drop it here. And you can export that information right out of Wave or whatever accounting system you have. So you don't even have to type this information in. You can literally just make sure you have enough rows and then copy and paste. And it can take you 5 minutes to update this schedule. This is not something that's meant to be a daunting task. So I'm going to say, just for purposes of this spreadsheet, I'm going to say this is where we are. So my operating expenses are $5,000. I made $10,000 for the quarter. No, sorry, that's the profit. So, all right, see, trip myself up. So this is the profit. I haven't paid myself anything as the owner. So I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to allocate out of that 10,000 that's left currently, I'm going to put 8,000 to pay myself. And then the taxes, what's left over, I'm going to say I put 2,000 away for taxes. So essentially now my net profit is 0. So maybe I can't pay myself that full amount because I want to hit that $1,000 of profit. But essentially, this is how the information flows up here. So I'm just making up numbers for this example. For January, you'll use your actual information and put that in here. And when you get to February, which is the next month, you can either choose to make the goal for that month your actual for February, your current budget that you set for February, you can essentially go back to your accounting system and look at what did I spend in February last year, make that your budget for this year. But essentially, you want to know what you're spending on and really spend some time to go through the expenses thoughtfully and intentionally to set a goal. So even though this is in black, I actually like to just type in a number next to each expense category so that I can say, I actually want to get that expense down from where it was in the actual last year. I'd like to, or last month, I'd like to spend $100 less. So I'll set what I want it to be here. So I'll put a number in there and then I'll see how did I actually track against that expense there. Now you'll see here that when you type here in the black, it's not changing this number. This is just a reference point for me. So I know when I'm looking expense by expense, what I wanted to spend versus what I actually spent. This number is going to automatically calculate based off of the target allocation percentage here. I know this is a lot of acronyms and new things that I'm introducing, but I just encourage you to download the template and at a minimum, update your actual information and then just put a goal in for your income and let the rest happen, right? So you really just need to put in your income goal in this section here, any cost of goods sold that you pay for, like materials or inventory, put those goals for what you want to make or spend for the quarter. The rest of the goals will calculate on their own. And then it's just up to you to insert your actual information here. So I know this video was a little bit longer than some prior periods, but it's really important to just lay this foundation and get into a habit of actually looking at the numbers, having some mechanism to see the spending each month, each quarter, each period, so that you can make different decisions. These numbers are meant to empower you. It's not to shame you. It's not to make you feel anxious or uncomfortable. It's allowing you to now experience the freedom of making new choices and decisions and saying, hey, I want a different outcome. I want to actually pay myself that 50%. I need to, maybe most of my money is going towards bills and expenses. I need to renegotiate contracts. I need to see where I can get a discount, really be intentional about spending time there as opposed to just being on automatic and just doing the same thing each month, trying to survive. It's about thriving. So I hope this was helpful. These are the things that we are doing in the month of February. I know it's the shortest month and it seems like a lot is packed into it, but the best thing you can do is go back to your checklist for the month and just put an hour or just block off an hour each week. We have the virtual power hour that will be taking place as part of the community. So if you go to our events page, you'll see that I updated the events for this month. Our virtual power hour is in 1 week. It's going to be virtual. You can add it to your calendar. If you're planning to attend, you can click attend. And then once you click attend, you can add it to your Google Calendar. So the virtual power hour will be happening soon. That way you're able to join us. It's a silent moment. So we're all together on Zoom, silently, actually just getting the work done. So whether you're working on the challenge itself, whether you are knocking out a different task that's on your list or to-do list for the month, it's really about carving out that time. So what I suggest is at the beginning of the month, think about it as like a monthly or weekly planning and just put the calendar events right on your calendar. Don't allow clients to book. If you're using Calendly or some other scheduling activity, put it maybe around your lunchtime. Whenever you can fit it in, block it off in advance and set it as a recurring event. That way you just know that that time is there for me to work on in my business, work on my business, and actually knock out some of these things that I may not have been giving attention to in the past. Once we create that habit, I promise things will get so much easier, but it's really important just to create these systems for yourself and to make sure that we're on top of these tasks that really are fundamentally important to keeping our businesses in compliance, saving time, saving money, not paying penalties, but just making sure that we are getting these things done. So that's it for my soapbox. I hope that this was helpful for you, and looking forward to our next monthly challenge and the rest of everything we have in store for this month. So peace.